themselves. Um, for example, you get bookings from especially male clients, and the conversation goes from professional conversations to, unrelated topics. And yes, we laugh about it, but it's really a challenge. And you find that sometimes when people ask for specifically a female guide, most of the time you think twice. Why? But also, if it's a group, then it's okay. But if it's just individual clients and they're asking about female guides and they've not looked anywhere else, so it's become part of, our story that personally, automatically, I will refer them to my male guides, some of them who are seated over there. And then, yeah, so those are some of the challenges. So it's not usually from our circle, it's also the clients.
Okay, so apart from all that, do you think this is something you really want to do for life?
I mean, I've done it for 20 years. It's, I'm not stuck in it, it's part of me.
Okay,
It's part of me and it's what I do.
that's good to know. So you're here to stay.
I'm here to stay, I've stayed
Okay,
this long.
thank you. Round of applause for Martha. Yes, I go straight to my friend from Tanzania, Laurentia. Please, can you tell us, is it the birding or the guiding that makes you glow, like you're glowing there?
Deo, I think if you remember, when we just met in Tanzania, I was still a young birder, just began and didn't know many birds. But I think you remember my enthusiasm and wanting to learn. And I always believed the birds would take me to different places, would help me in my career. And today I'm here.
Oh,
And the birds are also what made me to become a guide ranger and beyond. If you have heard of the company, it's a very big company. And only 4 female ranger guides from East Africa.
wow. And you're among the 4.
Yes, I'm among the 4. So I've just joined the company. I'm having 6 months now with them.
And looking forward to have another 12 years, 10, 30.
I'm looking forward to always be a birder because I know even if I stop being a guide, I'll still be a birder, and that will give me many opportunities to help other young ladies.
Wow, thank you very much, Laurentia. Janice, yes, the girl from 1,000 Hills, Rwanda. She's always busy. And please tell us, don't you want to go back to, was it the sewing business you're doing curtains? Or you think you're stuck here? Please tell us what have you achieved in this, and what challenges have you met actually during this journey?
Thank you so much, Theo. My first success during this journey is me being here on this panel. Because I can't just be here without something to say or something to inspire my younger me to come or to join us in birding or some other activities that are more welcoming women or some other sectors. We have other sectors out there that they don't have yet women intervening or succeeding in that sectors. So we never know. This International Women Birders Conference is not only here to encourage women in tourism,
because it's going wideward. So we never know whoever is picking up the message or the encouragement in this conference. Another thing is that my achievement goes back to the family. Now they know a lady can not only do the normal jobs we used to know like I can do. They know I cannot not only take care of myself through tailoring, yeah? They know I'm not only there to cook, do laundry, or some other stuff that are supposed to be done by women. And speaking of which, of a Thousand Hills country, we are one of the countries in the world that has 61% of members in the parliament. So this encourages the whole East Africa, the whole world, to knowing that women can always do something, can always take decisions in high levels. So why in tourism? And we have a lot of achievements. And guess what? I have a 3-year-old girl. She already has a pair of binoculars. And whenever she sees me with the binoculars, she's like, "Mommy, can I have my eyes?" She thinks it's the second eyes to her. Yeah, because she knows when she grabs a binocular, she's going to achieve seeing far things close to her. So it's another kind of a projection towards our kids, towards our young ones, towards whoever is willing to achieve anything in their life. So,
Yes, thank you, Janice. Any challenges that you would want to share with us that you've encountered during the guiding, the birding, as a woman, of course?
millions of challenges, but I'm coming back to everybody's challenges on this panel or the first panel of being a mother, being a wife, being a spouse to somebody, doing this job, which is not really easy. Even if, yes, we keep saying women can do what men can do. But
Yes.
on the field, now sometimes you realize, oh, I'm a woman. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much, Janice. Yeah, I remember when I met Janice in Rwanda, you told me that mostly when you ask guides to kind of give you like hints or give you their cars to drive and also master how to drive, they were like not, they wouldn't give that trust. And I think I did some work, didn't I?
Yeah. Speaking of the achievements, like now this season we are getting done with, they are giving me a nickname of a queen of flat tires. Like, you know, on the trip, we
She's the one who always gets flat tires,
Yeah.
okay? So,
yeah, where they like, oh, if you have a flat tire, please consult Janice. She's going to help you out. Like, now trusting that this gives you an image of now how far you've come. If somebody now is calling you, like, even if it's kind of a joke, but you realize, like, from not being given cars very easily, now they believe you can maybe train your fellow female guides to how to change a flat tire or how to do this on a car brake or how to do this on the field when they get challenges.
okay, thank you so much. A round of applause for Janice. And lastly, I'm hesitant whether to ask this question to Harriet about the success stories because she's already told us how she earned the name of the Peter girl. And then maybe she also has some other success stories that she needs to share with us that can inspire us. she could also be having a few challenges. And I would also want to ask her whether if she's offered a job at Uganda Wildlife Authority to rest from this hectic activity, whether she would take it. Oh, please, Harriet, you can share with us. Tell us, what have you achieved? Because we don't want to come here and brag and say, well, we are there, we are here to stay, when we have nothing to show. So you tell them, or tell us, what have you achieved? What challenges have you met through this journey? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dale. Same response, being here is a big achievement for me. Having everyone here is a big, big achievement. As the first female bird expert, there was almost no one like behind me. The time I was working with Uganda Wildlife Authority, and when I resigned my job, started freelancing, birding was not as sounding as it is today. Mr. Herbert Biaruhanga kept pushing, said, Harriet, you can do this. Harriet, you can take this beyond this level. And starting up the Uganda Women Bird Guides Club is one of the biggest achievements, because we wouldn't be here if this wasn't really started by Mr. Herbert Biaruhanga, following my good results that I was doing in the field. The other achievements, as Harriet and my team, when I talk of my team, I mean the female bird guides of Uganda, most of you we work together. I get overwhelmed with birding tours. Many people contacting me from all over the world. Harriet, are you available this time of the year? I'm like, yes or no. When you're not available, can you give us your best who can provide what we want? I call Abia or Prosi or Judith, whoever is available, because they're also busy most times. But yeah, that's one of the big achievements, I would say. To be able to be contacted by people I don't know, I've never met. I've never been to any stand in the US, in the UK, looking for business, but business finding me home is one of the biggest achievements, for sure.
Oh, yes, thank you, Harriet. Any major challenges? And then again, you also have to tell us, do you really want to retire soon and do other things, or you want to do this until you go down?
I would say challenges are many. Like any other industry, any other field. Hours back, I was traveling from Mabamba, and I happened to listen to a little bit of challenges my fellow guides were talking about. Female guiding versus male guiding. I remember the story during my freelancing time, 2014, yeah. One of the guides called me, Harriet, I was booked for a trip and I'm not able to do it. Can you please come and stand in for me? These were not my clients, it's a company. I'm like, okay, I'll stand in for you. So this guy from UK is one of the big birding companies in the United Kingdom, was told that Harriet is going to be your guide. They have replaced your guide to Harriet. So who's Harriet? I'm sure he felt nervous, he felt disappointed, and he was, oh my God, this trip is not going to be successful. I met him at the hotel day one of the trip. I introduced myself. He wasn't really sure that I was going to deliver. I looked, the look on his face was really like, oh, not for me. Day one in Mabamba and the rest of the tours, he was like, oh, why have I not been taking you up? Since then, he got stuck with me. Every time he's coming to Uganda, he wants to go with Harriet. So, I mean, girls, boys, doesn't matter. It's all about how much you produce in the field.
Okay, thank you so much, Harriet. I have to say this again, that please remember that we are, the boys are a little ahead, and we are trying to pull you, okay? So don't overtake us so fast. So thank you so much, my panelists and the members in the congregation, for giving us time to listen to our stories. And I think this marks the end of my session, and wish you fruitful. I don't know if, before I end this, if anybody has any questions before we end the session. Any questions for any of the participants? I'm just going to take one for each participant, just for saving time. So I'll begin. If you have any question for Harriet, one hand. No question for Harriet. If you have any question for Janice, yes, please. Someone give her the microphone. Yes, your name and where you come from and your question.
Thank you. It's Nandi from BirdLife South Africa. I just wanted to, it's not a question, but more of a comment on the remark that you made, that sometimes when you're in the field, when you're in this work, there's a moment when you realize that you're actually a woman. I found that to be so profound. And I think admitting that to ourselves and admitting it aloud is such a strength, because the lessons that I'm learning from this morning's panelists and from what everybody's saying, as women, we need to lean into our prowesses. So the fact that you've got strong maternal skills, that's your competitive edge, that's your comparative advantage. So we need to lean, we need to be within ourselves, and that's such an encouraging message for me, that you don't need to change who you are in order to survive in this male-dominated world, but rather have a strong self-sense of awareness, because knowing and feeling that, okay, yes, this moment is overwhelming me, and it's probably maybe because you're a woman, because of the way you're socialized, the way that you think, and the way that you interpret the world. I thought that was such strength, and I think it's...
Oh, thank you so much, and flowers to Janice. Any question for Laurentia? One hand. Question or comment or compliment?
Thank you so much. Please allow me to stand. I like to stand out. I'm joking. My name is Daphne Nahuera. Just a few of you know me. But I am also the Sunset Traveler. And first of all, ladies, I am so grateful. All of you, actually each one of you. Harriet, you made me cry. To be honest, I didn't even cry when I got proposed to. Now, what I'm saying is that your story is so beautiful. I would love to host you on my podcast. And my question goes to Janice. First of all, I have seen this girl when she started out as a bird, and I'm so impressed that she is actually here speaking to us. I'm so proud of you. My question is about Rwanda, you know, where you come from. How are women birders in Rwanda, especially with the numbers? Because I'm going to be honest, you're the only one I've seen. Is it a growing population in tourism as birders in Rwanda? And where are they getting their training from? Do they have a habat in Rwanda? Because, I mean, habat is always the savior of birds in Uganda. So is there a habat in Rwanda? If there is, how are the women approaching and embracing women birding in particular? Otherwise, thank you, guys, and I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, Janice, please.
Excuse me. excuse me.
Yeah,
Good,
Your
good
Honor.
afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Virungi Beatrice from National Arts and Cultural Crafts Association. I believe some of my members are also present. I just want to appreciate you young ladies for being so courageous and firm in the field that you are working in, because you are exposed to so many things. You are alone in the field, you are alone in the hotels, you are alone in the forests, and I really feel that you need an appreciation. How I would like to hear from you the message, or what is that strong message you can give to young girls who feel that they would wish to join this field, that they can remain strong and not diverted to other things, because there is a lot of money there. You're exposed to new people, you're exposed to strong people, you are told different stories. I will take you to America, I will take you to... What is that message that you can give to young girls who can join the field? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Before I take another question, Janice had to tell us whether the female guides or birders, the population is growing, or she's the only one in Rwanda, please.
I would like to answer her questions very clearly. Since I have started these birding excursions, the number is not growing. Guess why? The challenges that you, as Ugandan women birders, have faced long time ago, having the hunts, having the people grooming you, the people pushing you, having different sectors supporting you with either materials, either this and that you need to pursue or follow your passion. We don't have that yet in Rwanda, unfortunately. So we have some people who have been there for long who tries to, what they do is welcome us, invite us, but inviting comes whoever is willing to, or meaning you know where you are going, you have what is going to cater you along. Yeah? So the number is actually not growing, and whatever number is there, everybody is also going for big things. You know, birding is a long journey. You can't just start today and you know you are achieving tomorrow. So it's a long learning journey.
Okay, Janice, thank you so much. I think, Judith, you've heard. We still have a long way to go. We need to stretch and make sure we have this number growing in Rwanda. So really, we are out of time. I would like to end this session. Thank you so much for listening to us. Ladies, you can go and take your seats.
A group photo, please, before you leave. Group photo. Cameraman, please. For ending a successful session. With those fresh smiles. Wow. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Deo, for this fantastic job. Another round of applause to Deo and the team here. You know, the stories are very inspiring all the time, because when you listen to these ladies talking, of course, they're a bit shy. Sometimes it's too much. They don't want to say everything. I know Harriet did something amazing, and she has not talked about it. The Harriet you hear, she went on a trip with a baby of 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Oh my God. I was like, well, how is she going to do it? But she did it and managed to come back. Harriet has accommodation. She didn't mention that. Harriet, how could you forget that you have accommodation for us? She has 2 facilities, very nice facilities. You can go and stay there and have and enjoy it. One is near the forest where you can even walk at night and go there. So, ladies and gentlemen, we will have a working tea or coffee, but I want us to have this next session because it's a learning session. We love to get all of you involved in the budding world, where we create equal opportunities. Our theme is talking about equal opportunities, but we love to see even many men, not only women around, many men get involved. And I can tell you, we can only make sense as a country or as a continent or the world if we share what we see. Everybody, I discovered along the way, what made me a photographer, that people appreciate photographs more than anything else. And people in technology created phones. They innovated phones, and every other time, people pull up with the phones and take pictures. Many times they end there. They appreciate them on phone and go away. So we need to look at how can we do it better for Uganda in this case. How can we do it better for Uganda? So the next 2 speakers, whom I've known for quite some time, are going to share with you part of their journey through this and how it can be done best here. And I wish everybody gets, especially those young people here, get some pens there and notebooks and take some notes, because these are very, very technical people. I have been going to the United States for a very long time. I am known to very, very many friends there, but one of them that I've been talking to, who sold me this binocular, by the way. He gave me this binocular when he was working with Leica. It got old, the first one, because it's an expensive thing. And when I went back and told him this binocular cannot help me anymore, he just gave me a new one. Exchange. And guess what? Judith talked about this binocular earlier. $3,000. That was all. Take this one. Allow me to invite Jeff Button. Come to the stage. This is the guy who he switched to another company. One amazing thing that you would want to take even a photo with him is that, please take a seat, is that he wants to digiscope. You know what they call digiscoping? Digiscoping. He wants to do 1,000 species of birds. But of those, he has done about 700 something, and he wanted 270 in Uganda. But he's almost 100 in 2 days. So I think he's going to make it. So if you take a photo with him, and you'll just be proud. You can imagine he's not all birders around the world. Now, also, to balance the boat, as we say in Uganda, there's another lady who is an expert in photography. She has come to be with us. She's a very good friend of ours. She follows our Facebook pages. You know, some of you have these Facebook pages. I know in Uganda we don't use Facebook these days, isn't it? But sometimes people do the way they can, they get it. But you officially closed. But it's on. You can still use it. If you are a bird watcher like me, you have to fly over where there is no network and get your own network. So allow me to invite a lady, very professional guide, a mother of 2, Jamie. Please give her a clap. You are welcome to the podium, the stage. They have very good presentations that you need to pay attention to. I want to warn colleagues who are tribe mates, my tribe mates. Please listen carefully. The accent is going to change. There's nothing else. It's just accent. The words are the same, but accent, please. Open your ears carefully. If you don't watch television, CNN, sorry for you. If you never watched cartoons, you would be like me. It took me like 5 years to pick some accents. But it's simple, easy. Take it easy. You're going to enjoy what they're going to discuss with you. I know you're making a presentation. Just hand it over there. Presentation for Jeff, please. You have it off head? Off head? Oh, it is there. You give them, okay. Moderator, presentation. I don't see it here on the screen. So this conference, ladies and gentlemen, is attended by people from America, South America. That's your. Okay, we're going to sweep you. Just easy. You're all brothers, crazy brothers. So, let's allow Jamie to come and take us through what she does. She's a guide. In Uganda, in East Africa, when somebody's like her, they say, no, you don't supposed to be a guide. You have grown. Me, I've told people I will retire when I die. Jamie, I love you to be here. Thank you for accepting to come to Uganda. Please take us through what you do.
Yes, thank you. Hello, everyone. I'll let the photos speak for themselves for the most part if you can't understand what I'm saying. I think Jeff's. Is that your presentation? Mine should have a bird that says nature photography as the first slide, please. That's the one. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for having me here. My name is Jamie Cunningham. I'm from the United States. I live in Ohio. And I work for a company called Saberwing Nature Tours. I'm a birding and photography guide, but primarily for photography. And any of our guides out there who've guided photographers know that we're a little different breed than the birders. A little more, I'll say passionate, but crazy might be the right word. I'm very happy to be here with all of you other women guides. In the US, it's very similar. There's a big disparity between men and women. I'm in a company of 6, I'm the only woman. And in addition, for photography, there's even less guides than there are birding guides. And I'm not sure why. My client base is about 50-50, maybe 60-40 with women being predominantly my main client. So it's interesting that so many of the guides are male. It's the shared experiences I've heard today aren't just in Uganda. I mean, that's shared across the globe as well. I, too, am a mother. Balancing family life and work life can be challenging. This time I just brought them along. My children are here, so very excited to have them in Africa. I'd make them stand up, but they'll be grouchy later, so. When I heard about this conference, the first thing I wanted to do was do something for the guides here. I know binoculars are an issue to get, and camera gear probably even more. So we reached out to our partners at Zeiss, and they provided us a set of binoculars to raffle off for anyone who would donate a camera for us to bring to donate to these women guides here to use in the field. So I'm very excited to have quite a few pieces of equipment that will be left here and be used by all the guides, and very excited about that. So I'm very lucky. The company that I work for, they're a great company. I build my own itineraries. I set my own schedule. I'm part of the decision-making process. I do my own logistics. Any idea I come to them with, they're for it. I also implemented several women-only birding tours. That's the first thing I brought to them, actually, when I joined the company. And they were wonderful about letting me do whatever it was that I wanted to do, you know, and great group of guys that I work with. So it is a little different leading birding trips and photographers. How many of the guides that are here, raise your hand if you've had some serious photographers in your group? Big cameras, who's got serious? They're not like the birders, are they? It's not enough to see the bird. We have to see it well. It has to be in the right light. Oh, and what about the backgrounds? Are they too busy? We have to get the right head angle. Everything has to be perfect, so it's a very interesting set of challenges to guide photographers. I sometimes miss the days where I could just look at a bird and be really happy, which I still do, don't get me wrong. So through this presentation, anyone who's a guide, your photography clients are going to want something different. So some tips and tricks in here for offering a little bit different experience for those type of clients. Let's see if I can get this to work. You said I just point it towards the back. Ah, there we go. So why photography? We've talked so much today about birding, using your tools like binoculars. So now we've got a camera. We've got a whole nother piece of equipment to use, something you have to learn. It's cumbersome. They're heavy a lot of times. And then there's a lot of extra moving parts and pieces. You need memory cards. You need batteries. You need to make sure those batteries are charged. I've been in the field where I've forgotten. That's quite unfortunate. So it's like a whole nother level of things that you have to worry about. So what's the point? Why even bother doing it? It's the Buffy helmet crest, by the way. That's pictured there. So this is a terrible photo. Terrible. But this is a good example of a lot of times what you see in the field. When you're using a field guide, you open the bird book, you go to the page, and there's this crisp, clear view, a nice lit thing where you can see all the field marks. You can see everything about the bird. In the field, it's not that simple. These birds are fast. They move quickly. They're behind branches. They're up high in the canopy. It's not always easy to see what you're looking at. So with a camera, it's great for learning. It's a great tool. When I first started, I got my camera mainly for identification. I took a picture of what I was seeing. I could take it home, sit down, compare it to my field guides, and figure out what I was looking at. In addition, everything in field guides isn't necessarily covered. It doesn't cover all plumages. It doesn't cover different angles. It doesn't cover many things, juveniles, adults, molting. So with a camera, you're able to take some photos, go back, and learn later. Repetition. I use photos all the time. I've been studying like crazy for birding here. It's a lot of different species to learn, and photographs is how I do that. So even if you're not in it for the artistic piece, identification is a big deal. Business promotion. People see photos and want to do the same thing. We picture our groups having fun, going out to eat, seeing birds, being excited. For those of you in the business, this is a great way to encourage growth within your community for others to see and say, you know what, I want to do that too. And these people seem to have a great time with this guide. I'm going to book with this guide. So photography can be very important for that piece as well. I use my photography a lot in education. One of the things I'm most passionate about is teaching youth about birds and conservation. I do most of my programs for elementary and middle school age youth. This is a picture of my first high school group that I ever did, and I was really excited. Out of 8 classes, only 2 kids slept the whole time, which is unusual for high schoolers. But in addition to that, you can use photography and speaking. Sometimes people get into the sales of photography for calendars and prints and things like that. It's much harder nowadays to do that sort of thing. But you can use your photography for a lot of other purposes. Science is also a very important one. This is a piping plover. You can see it has bands on the legs. So this is something that we're able to get the data off of those bands and report these birds and see what their movements are, what they're doing, where they're going. And it'd be very hard to do this in the field, to see the tiny numbers and letters that are on each of these bands. So I can go in later, zoom in, figure out what I'm seeing, and report this information, which is valuable data for the community. Interactions, capturing behaviors. I have a whole series of photos. Now, these are not quality images because they were taken at quite a distance, but the bird you see very low and small is a piping plover. The bird up top is a whimbrel. It's one of our largest shorebirds versus one of our smallest shorebirds. And this whimbrel landed in a piping plover's breeding territory. And the piping plover was very upset. So he faced off with this bird that's at least, maybe 10 times larger than him to try and scare him off the beach. And very small over in the far right-hand side there on the ground, but you can see him low, starting to run at this whimbrel who's doing an aggressive territorial display back. And ultimately, this bird chased the whimbrel, huge bird, chased him right off the beach. And to my knowledge, I've not been able to find any other photos that have captured this series of events. So you're able to document in the field interesting things that other people may have never seen. And conservation. People do not care about what they don't know about. I have found that most people will care if you share information with them. They just simply don't know. This is a bobolink. It's a bird that lives on our prairies in North America and migrates down to South America in the winter. And it's suffered a lot of habitat loss. I found one of these birds displaying some nesting type behavior at our local reservoir. And in the US, we love to mow. We have a real problem with short grass or long grass, and I'm not sure why. People think of it as being messy. So we pour a bunch of chemicals on grass, then to cut it down so everything looks green and sterile. I actually really hate it. But what that's done is destroy a lot of habitat. So everyone's always out mowing in the summer. Well, when I found this bird, I went to our local city officials and said, hey guys, can you just wait to mow? Can you not do it now? Wait till the end of breeding season, and then you can mow till your heart's content. But give us till July. And it was the easiest thing I had ever done. They agreed immediately over the phone. We put an article in the newspaper about it to let everyone know why we were letting all this grass grow so these birds could breed. And it's been a reoccurring partnership with the city now for 6 years that they leave that area unmowed through the entirety of breeding season. So it just took some photos, some information to help. And it's not a big help, but it's what you can do. You should always do what you can, and that's more than doing nothing. So I get a lot of feeling from people when they see me out with my big telephoto lens that, you know, it's something that I'm doing that they can't do. My equipment's expensive, it's heavy, but everyone can do photography. Who's taken a picture of a bird? I mean, you guys have taken pictures of birds, right? No matter what. These cell phones nowadays, they're incredible. They're a great tool. So you don't have to go out and buy a $10,000 camera. You can do photography with what you have. So it should never feel like that's a barrier just because you don't have the big equipment. And, you know, the quality has just gotten better and better and better. So it really is something that everyone can be a part of. So what do you need to get started? It's pretty simple. A camera, a subject, the basic rules of photography, which I'll go over with you in a moment. Patience. I'm not a patient person at all, but photography has made me very patient to wait for the right shot, the right look, the right light, the right location. And don't be scared of mistakes. I spent one whole summer screwing up every photo I took because I was determined to learn how to shoot in a particular mode, manual mode, but I learned from it. You can always go out and take another shot. And a positive attitude. It's easy to get discouraged. You shoot all day long and then you go home with nothing and then you get on Instagram and see the most beautiful bird shot. And it can be very frustrating. But stay positive, always more time to shoot. So a short list of some equipment that's recommended. And you don't need all of these things, especially like editing software. A lot of times you can edit right to your phone. If you take a picture on your phone, you have editing built right in. It's wonderful. I will say that having rain gear is an important thing, as I lost a camera recently to some humidity in the tropics. If I can offer one piece of advice to anyone getting interested in photography, now it's a boring read, I assure you, but read your camera manual. I have so many people come to me and say, I don't know how to do this, I don't know which button to push. And I say, well, have you checked your manual? Can you show it to me? And they get it out and it's still in the plastic. They've never opened it. And it is dry. It is a dry read. But there's so many variants now, different companies doing different things. Mirrorless has gotten really big. So if you sit with that manual and just flip through, you're going to learn a lot about the equipment you're using and will answer a lot of your questions. So some of our basic rules. Keep the sun at your back. That's the first one. It gives you the correct exposure most of the time. You're not going to be backlit. Your bird's not going to be shadowed. Get closer. That's always a thing you want to try to do. Don't center your subject in the middle of the frame. Only photograph in good light. That means usually a couple hours after sunrise and a couple hours before dark. That harsh midday light really blows out colors, messes with the contrast. And get eye level with your subject. Nobody wants a shot of a bird's butt, like looking up at a tree. It's not a good shot. Things to avoid, kind of the opposite of what we just looked at. Going out midday in harsh light will never result usually in a nice photo unless you have a nice overcast day. Shooting up. I see a lot of people, they see a bird come in and they do this. I don't want a cloaca shot of a bird. I'm not sure about anyone else, but it's not an ideal shot. Shooting down at a bird is also kind of the same thing. Birds flying away from you, and a lot of times that's because you've disturbed them anyways. Using any unethical methods while photographing, that's a big one. It's at the end of the day, the bird is the most important thing, not the photo. And emotional attachment. I see a lot of people hanging onto photos they've taken because it was a very special moment for them. It was something that they worked hard for. But if you're really interested in a quality photograph, you have to be very objective of your own work. Being prepared is a big one. It's, check the weather, bring insecticide, be ready for those harsh conditions. I heard a lot of talk today about wearing trousers, which is cute because we call them pants. I don't hear the word trousers very often. I wouldn't dream of going out in the field without pants, nor do I I don't wear skirts and dresses anyways, but it's be prepared with your clothing, be prepared with all of your gear, make sure your batteries are charged, things like that. It makes things a lot easier. So setting up the shot, you're out, you've got your gear, you've got your memory card, everything's good. So a few things to keep in mind. Always check your settings instead of just going out and shooting. Have a quick look. Remember to go out in that good light. The light angles, so keep the sun at your back for the most part. The background, I always think about that a lot. I look at my bird through the viewfinder, and the next thing I do is look behind him. Is there a big stick running through the back of his head? Is there something really distracting back there, bright leaves? Can I move a little bit to get that out of the frame? That's something that's very important to me. Getting closer will always improve your backgrounds and make your subjects easier to see. And if something's in the way or something doesn't look right, try getting lower, try getting higher. Many times you will find me laying on the ground at a beach photographing shorebirds. That happens often. I'm not going to get too much into the technical points of exposure. That would be a whole nother program today. But I get a lot of questions. What is the best mode? If you're not sure and you've not practiced, just put it in auto mode. You're not going to nail every exposure, but that will come with practice. So don't be afraid. I hear people say, oh, if you're not shooting in manual mode, you don't know what you're doing. That's a very elitist view. In good light situations in a mid-tone background, you could easily shoot in auto and get the same result. I think the most important thing I can talk to you guys about today is composition, because that's something everyone can do. You take the photo, but how do you present it to the world? How do you line it up so it's pleasing to look at? And that's something everyone can work on, regardless of what equipment you're using. And photo selection. So this is not a good shot. This is unfortunately my only female cerulean warbler shot. But it's a mess. There's sticks all over the place and terrible light. And at some point when you're going through and trying to decide, what am I going to present as this photo that I want to show people, that I want to be proud of, you have to be very picky in what you choose. So this is one that I would recommend. I mean, it's slightly off-centered. It has room for the bird to move. Our brains like to see the possibility for motion in a photo. So it's just cropping it real tight in, or the bird's looking that way, so our brains want to see that there's room for that bird to move into that space. I like when the background's very clean. It keeps the focus on the subject at hand. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm not telling anyone these bird species. This is a prairie warbler. one of birds that breed in my home state. And this is a gray-breasted mountain toucan. This is from Colombia. And you can see that I've kind of anchored in the corner part of the branch and put the bird slightly off center again so it has room to move. And this is an okay shot. It's fine, you can see the bird. It's okay. But when left in a better compositionally pleasing way that includes some of the beautiful background and some of the plants that are so pretty in this shot, it makes for a much more pleasing photo. Rule of thirds, that's something you're going to always hear when dealing with photographers. What that means is if you're looking at a photo, you want to break it into a grid, and you want to put your subject on one of the cross points. This is something they've studied, actually, that our brains find very pleasing to see a photo expressed in this way. So you can kind of see the grid. We've got the green-winged teal here on the bottom left anchor point. We've got kind of a line of the marsh horizon in the background, and then the lines from the bird moving are on that lower horizontal line. So here's it without the grid, same concept. This is a little blue heron. Again, it's the non-breeding plumage golden crowned sparrow, kind of offset here. And you may think, well, how do you get the birds where you want it? Well, I do a lot of work at feeder setups. This is a built setup, actually, that I brought in these plants. I put that branch there, and there is seed right underneath that branch. So I knew that the bird would come in, land, and then jump down to get the food. It's another example of a vertical with the rule of thirds. And a lot of this is done in post-processing. When you crop, you can take the shot and then you crop it in a way to put it on these lines. So once you know the rules, there's a lot of times you're going to want to break the rules. But the goal is to know why you're breaking them. So this is a muskox from Nome, Alaska, and he's right in the middle of the frame. And for a good reason. He kind of squared off to me as I got out of the car on the road, and was not happy about me being there. And I wanted to really show how powerful he was, and so I wanted him to be right in the center. And then there's square crops. Most of these you've seen have been a landscape crop or vertical crop, but sometimes square works really well, especially for headshots. And you've got a picture like this. This is a difficult, I edited this about 4 different times trying to find a way for this to work. This is a glossy flower piercer from Costa Rica. So you've got kind of an anchor point on either side, and the bird, in this kind of unusual way, he's clipping the base of the flower to drink the nectar instead of drinking it like a hummingbird would. Sometimes I really like to show the habitat that the bird is in when they live in very beautiful areas. It's a spotted sandpiper. Looks a lot like your guys' common sandpiper. And the scene was so beautiful that I wanted it to be as much of a focus as the bird itself. So it's not always necessary to crop right in on top of the bird every time. Sometimes I really want to show the habitat. We've got a short-tailed hawk here, very, very small in the frame, but this beautiful cloud forest in Costa Rica I really wanted to show off, so I included a lot of that in the frame here. I talk about getting eye level with the subject a lot, getting low. Well, there are times where that's an exception. This is a young roseate spoonbill, and I really wanted the reflection in the shot, so I got higher to include part of that. And I said always keep the sun at your back, but you can do some really lovely stuff with silhouetting. So if you're feeling artsy, you can get out there and put the sun right in front of you, expose for the sun, and end up with a shot like this. This is a little motion blur. I've slowed my shutter way, way down on purpose so I could show some of the movement of these sandhill cranes as they were moving through the marsh. So once you've gotten the hang of things and you've taken a lot of photos and you're interested in more than documentary shots, there's just a few tips here if you want to really stand out from the crowd. The head angle of the bird. This is a huge one for me. It's a deal breaker on every shot. If that bird is not looking towards me, if it's looking away or even parallel, it just doesn't feel intimate. It doesn't feel like I have a connection with that animal. So it's really important to me to choose a photo where the bird is slightly looking towards me. I would feel that way about mammal photography as well. Like here's a shot, it's just not the same. Yeah, the bird's in the frame, it's fine, but it's flying away. This is a Santa Marta wood star from Colombia. The last one was a prothonotary warbler, sorry. And a lot of times to get them to look at me, you can just make kind of a squeak or a pish sound. This bird, this is a varied thrush, it was looking away from me and I just kind of like, and he just turned and looked real quick and I snapped the shot. That's kind of how you get them to look in your direction. Getting eye level. This is probably my favorite type of photography. When you're right with the animal that you're photographing, it feels like you have a real connection with your subject. So a lot of times I will lay in water, lay on the ground. I've climbed up trees. I've done all sorts of really crazy stuff for shots. This is a tricolored heron. So as you get low, it improves all of your background. It creates a very powerful photo of just your subject, not everything else. If I would have stood, you would have seen all the water behind, you wouldn't have seen any of the grasses, and it would have been not anywhere close to a nice shot. Getting closer. So as you approach your subjects, just make sure you don't rush in quickly, you don't make a lot of eye contact, move casually, and many times birds are very tolerant if you move slowly towards them. This is one I was able to get quite close to as he was feeding in the area. This is a golden-winged warbler. Oh, the last one was a chestnut-collared longspur. And I think my favorite thing to photograph is interesting interactions between birds. Just a portrait of a bird is nice, but I really like capturing interactions and behaviors. So if you find a group of birds, a lot of times there'll be territorial disputes with feeding or breeding grounds, so you can find some really cool action shots. This is a black tern. If you just park in the road near a nesting colony, and you like open the door, the black terns come and hover and yell at you the entire time. So I knew they would do this, and I didn't stay very long, but I was able to get this awesome shot of him flying right in my face before we moved on. Spruce grouse doing a breeding display. So if you're there during the times of year where birds are displaying, it's easy to pick up on some of these displays that they give to the females, who are usually rather uninterested, actually. Preening behavior, that's always a fun one. Got a tricolored heron adjusting some feathers here. Feeding behavior, this is a violet-crowned hummingbird. So if you find a place that a bird is feeding on berries or feeding at flowers, usually if you wait, you can easily catch them doing some feeding behavior and they'll stay in one spot. So here's just an example. This is kind of a crappy photo of an American toad. So I went out and I just took this shot. So like, how can we make this better? How can we improve this? And this is something anyone can do no matter what type of equipment you have. So here's the problems. We've got this bright, distracting stick. The background's really messy. There's this big leaf in the bottom that's blocking it. So the very first thing I do is I move my feet. I move a little left, right, up, down. Where's the better shot? Where's the better angle? Just by moving up a step and slightly left, I've already almost eliminated all of the issues with this shot. I moved one more time and it's completely different. So no matter which type of gear you have, it is possible to obtain good photos if you're thinking about it in this manner. And a lot of times going from like a horizontal shot, when you've got like a tall, elongated bird, if you just go to vertical, it looks so much nicer. So I'm not gonna spend a lot of time on post-processing because that's a whole another deal, but the only thing I wanna say about it is you really cannot make a bad photo good. I hear a lot of times like people say, oh, well, that's photoshopped. Yeah, but if it's not a good photo, you're not gonna fix it. It's not gonna happen. So you can edit cameras on most of the phones nowadays, so you don't have to buy expensive photo processing programs. Sometimes cameras even come with their own photo processing like software as well. The last thing I want to say about post-processing as you look through photos on the internet, just keep in mind that most of these are processed photos. So when I first started, I got very discouraged because I would go out in the field and I would spend all this time out there and I would take all these photos and they wouldn't look anything like what I'm seeing everyone else post, and I couldn't figure out why. And I didn't realize that people were working at feeder setups, that they were planning stuff to make things easier for them, and that there was a lot of editing going on. So this Cerulean warbler, this is not the shot I took. That's the shot I took. So as a challenge, I did not want this distracting tree in my background, so I took the whole thing out, I rebuilt it, and I moved the branches from the right over. So that's the shot I edited. So that's not real. So when you're out and you're taking photos and you see this great stuff online, especially also with the addition of AI now, there's gonna be a lot of stuff. So my message is to not compete against other people when you're out there doing photography. Compete against yourself. Try for you to get a better shot, because you never know what people are doing to their photos in processing. So the shot on the left's really great, but it's not real. And the biggest piece of advice is practice. You don't get any better by sitting at home. Get out in the field, take as many photos as you can, and I only show the best 1% of my 1%. I mess stuff up all the time. I have awful photos and bad exposures, and I mess stuff up, but I don't show that to anybody. So when you see like a really good photographer, they're not good all the time, I promise. Like, there's mistakes happening, but I'm still out there all the time practicing, learning. You're never done learning with this. Photography is really, it's a marathon. It's not something you pick up and learn right away. I've been doing this for about a decade. I've been guiding for 5 years, and I'm still learning things, especially with all the new camera advances all the time. So this is like a poor photo of a tree swallow that I took back in 2012. And that's a more recent one. You can see the improvement. I'm not even really sure what species of bird this is. I think it's a palm warbler, but this was from like 2013 when I had just gotten a camera and was still learning. That's a palm warbler I've taken much more recently. Here's a collection of incredibly bad photos that I took when I started out. I know, they're really good, right? I'm so proud. I'm not even sure if the photo on the left middle is a bird. It might be a pile of leaves. I'm not entirely sure. But this is a collection of really, I'm not sure there's a bird in the bottom left one either. But this is stuff that I started out with. This is how I started. It is not something that you learn to do by next week, next month, next year. It's something that takes a lot of time and practice and work. And I'm not showing you these images to brag, but I'm showing you that you can go from that to this. If you take the time and you put the work in and you practice, you can go from possibly a clump of leaves to some very nice bird photos. All right, any questions from anyone? How am I doing on time? Questions? Oh yes, I don't know if they're gonna bring the microphone. Just holler, Bella. No, I can't. I'll repeat the question.
Thank you so much. My question was about the motion shot. So sometimes we will also set the motion, the shutter speed low, so we can get a kind of motion track. How do you decide what to do? And also, I got a second question: how do you preset your cameras? That's all. Thank you.
So I'll start with the second one because it's easier. I always preset based on the light. I set my exposures based on the light conditions, and there's no settings. I have people say, well, what's the best setting I can use for bird photography? Well, that varies. That varies every time, all the time. It changes every minute, which is why photography is so hard. So I make that decision based on my own personal level. I know what I can handhold at, what I'm comfortable capturing movement and motion at, based on the camera that I'm comfortable using. But it always comes back to the light. Light's number one in photography. If you don't have light, you don't have a photo. So I base every decision on that. For shutter speed, I know that I can capture motion at 1/250th of a second with some wing blur. So I go as fast a shutter as the light allows me to. With slow shutters, it really, it still comes back to the light, but you want to start working about 1/50th of a second to start showing some motion blur with like the smaller birds. Larger birds are going to need to go even slower. So it's a lot of times, I don't spend a lot of time doing that, so I'll take shot, look, adjust, shot. So it's a very fast, I'm adjusting in the field as I go. Yes. Could we have the microphone back, please? Another question? No, thanks.
Yeah, thank you very much. That was a really great presentation with some bit of humor. Personally, I love photography. I'm an artist and I really love photography. I haven't been doing birds until recently when I got a lens that is slightly longer than what I've been using. But there's something I wanted to ask. Do you focus on only pictures or do you also do videos? Because with videos and birds, I bet you'd need like 100% kind of patience. I was going to ask about the shutter and the settings, and she did, and thank you very much for asking that.
I don't do a lot of video. I find that if you do one thing, you should focus on that and do that, because when I'm in the field, if I go birding, I take binoculars. I do not take a camera, because if I take a camera, then I start photographing, and then I turn into like this crazy person. I don't know where to look, and I get frustrated. So it's the same with video. If you're going to do video, then you need to set up for that specifically. Now, the cameras I use are very good quality video, but you need a special like head for the camera. You need a special sort of tripod head for doing that sort of motion to keep it steady. So I do a tiny little bit of video for like our website and things like that here and there and for social media. But if you're going to do something, I suggest doing one thing and focusing specifically on that, because you're gonna want to have the correct gear for each of those things to try and just switch back and forth. If you look through the few videos I've shot, they're terrible. They're like all like jittery, and like trim them way down to like 4-second clips where it's not a hot mess. So, yeah. Sorry. Yeah, so you're gonna wanna get a specialty video panning head. So you can use probably the same gear you're already using, but to have that tension, to keep it smooth and slow, you'll want a tripod to have that on. And that's what I would focus on. It's very hard to flip back and forth. Anyone else?
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Round of applause. Thank you so much, Shemi, for that great class. Tomorrow she will be giving to us many cameras she carried all the way from the United States to here for the women birders. When they asked about those interested in photography, I didn't see many hands, so I'm worried I will keep these cameras with me. Yet I'm not a woman, so they are for women birders. So we'll see what happens. Thank you very much, Jamie, for this good presentation. Just, you know, there's a difference between photographing people and nature, okay? And if you're involved in this business of tourism, you really need quality photos. Many, many times I get people asking me for photos. I've been giving out photos all the time. I don't think I can claim any photo in this world, because I always share photos. But I think it's time now. Start thinking about investing in buying good equipment and show our countries how beautiful they are through our photos, our own photographs, okay? So I know the women brothers in Uganda are going to take this opportunity of starting photography, but it requires a lot of commitment, like you had since morning. You have to be patient, you have to be someone who is committed to doing this to be able to get the quality photos, and we really need the photos. Of course, many artists, the people who do drawings, they'll be very happy to look at the photos you have taken so that they can make better drawings, and that's very good, which we must work on this country. Now, her being a photographer should be inspiring many women brothers here. Tomorrow I'll ask her son to come with a camera. Can you come here briefly? Just come briefly. Briefly. Just come briefly. Sorry, unexpected, but just come. I trust you. Just come here. Just greet these people, tell them your name.
I'm Mason Cunningham, the son of Jamie Cunningham over there, who just gave that wonderful presentation. Yeah.
So in my country, at his age, they can't say, they will say mommy. You know what it means? We remain mommy until when we are 30. But at his age, he's free to say Jamie. That's not the point, what I wanted him to come here. I have seen him, I saw him yesterday with a big camera. I'll ask him tomorrow to come with it. And then we start thinking about when should we introduce our children to these things? Yes. When should they start photography? At his age, he's able to take good photos. He can hold a big camera. It's not about poverty. It's not about, it's about determination. Focusing your children on what they can be. Yeah? So you are very lucky you have got quite a number of young people here who will be inspiring you tomorrow. There will be, I will ask Jamie and Jeff in the next few days to have a clinic outside in the field for those who will be interested to go and learn how to maybe take photos and do digiscoping to be able to learn. So tomorrow prepare to come and tell us, what's your favorite bird in the US? Your favorite bird?
My favorite bird, I can't really choose a favorite, to be honest. I've seen so many incredible species, 100, maybe closer to 200, possibly, and I'm still discovering more, especially now on this trip. I've still got plenty of days ahead of me to see many other different types of birds than I already have seen. But
what would be the favorite for Uganda so far?
Uganda, for sure, would be the shoebill.
Perfect. Thank you very much. I see the shoebill girl is excited. We have a Peter girl, now we have a shoebill girl, Judith. She didn't talk about, but she's a shoebill girl. Now we have a green-breasted Peter girl. So, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to invite this gentleman here to share with us how he does digiscoping. The word digiscoping, I don't know, I think many of you have not yet appreciated it in your vocabulary. Digiscoping. Okay? You're going to talk about this? Oh, yeah. Digiscoping is one of those things people must know, and the girls must know this. This is a Women Brothers conference. Women must know how to do digiscoping. Thank you very much, Jeff. Talk to the people.
Thanks, Herbert. I appreciate you. First of all, I just feel very awkward here. I feel like the last person that should be speaking to you, but thank you so much for allowing me to come. I've been a big fan. Herbert and I have known each other longer than a lot of the panelists have probably been alive. And we've been talking about coming to Uganda for years. I was aware of the Ugandan Women's Birding Program from the onset, and I think it's just one of the most progressive, wonderful programs, maybe anywhere in birding. It's really inspiring. Again, I may be the wrong person to be speaking to you. Apologies, but I'm honored and thrilled to be here to speak to you. Without getting too caught up in that, I will say that everything that Jamie just said to you, I'm probably the anti-Jamie. I do everything wrong. I don't carry a camera. I don't own any post-processing. The whole reason for me to start photography is because I've birded for, well, it's over 4 decades now, we'll put it that way, and at a very serious level. When I first started, photography was horrible. You know, there weren't good lenses. It was all film photography. And if you go back and look at books from when before you were born that have pictures in them, you look at those pictures, there'll be these grainy, pixelated blobs that everyone would delete now. So I guess I just never got into it. I didn't grow up and learn my birding at a time when photography was being done. So this is my camera. I only shoot my phone. I mostly do it for documentation. I don't have patience. Maybe that's another problem. With digiscoping, I find myself having to back up more than getting closer as a bigger problem. So it's a different world. But for me, I don't want a camera. I don't want to be a photographer. I don't consider myself a photographer. I want to document what's out there, but again, through practice and good gear, and as the phones have gotten better, the pictures are actually pretty good, you know? And that's what I want to teach everybody. If you don't want to be a photographer, if you don't want to have, you know, a DSLR, and you want to bird watch first and foremost and shoot from the hip along the way, that's what I do. So we're a very good complement. On the surface, we're speaking kind of about the same thing, but in a lot of ways, it's completely different. So with that, obviously, I've had a few days here. You can put up the program, I'm sorry. Switch over from my ugly mug. We get the presentation on the screen? There we go. Yeah, so I've been here a few days, appreciating some of the Ugandan wonderful birding and wildlife already. It's been a great time. You can see I've managed to already capture a few of your specialties. Which one do we work here? Just any arrow? Oh boy. Hey, there we go. Yeah, just an idea. But again, just with the phone, through the spotting scope primarily. I've been doing a thing this year, which I'll never do again. Somehow I kind of got sucked into taking a lot of pictures, and I realized by the end of the first week of the year that I photographed over 100 bird species that I'd managed to digiscope with my phone. Then I got invited to go speak at the Columbia Bird Fair, and then I did a digiscoping workshop at the, or not workshop, but a team for the Champions of the Flyway in Israel. And the next thing I know, it's March, and I've already photographed like 400 plus species of birds. And I said, I wonder how many species I could get in a year, just kind of beating my own record. At some point, I was stupid enough to use the term big year. I don't know what possessed me to do that, but as soon as I threw that gauntlet down, I felt like I had to try really hard to get more birds. So as of now, I'm at 799 bird species that I photographed through the spotting scope, and I'm pushing for 1,000 this year. We'll see. I'm calling it a world record until someone can prove me wrong otherwise, because I don't think anyone's ever been stupid enough to do this. So I'm going with it, you know, but it's good marketing. But yeah, I've taken a lot of pictures, I've made a lot of mistakes, and my goal here is to teach people how to easily, without a lot of knowledge, take the best pictures you can with the gear you have, okay? So some of the locals have been mixed response. I've met some of the locals in the field, you know, and as you can see, the response has been varied from mildly curious to just absolutely amazed and shocked, and I'm not sure what the third one's trying to tell me. Yeah, it's been a different approach that they've never seen. So that's digiscoping. Digiscoping comes from digital, using some form of a digital device, be it a camera, a tablet, your smartphone, behind a scope. Okay, so that's where the term came from. I want to backtrack a little bit, and I thank my model here. Where'd she go? She's not. Oh yeah, there she is in the back. Thank you very much for putting up with me. I was like, ooh, a common bulbul. You know, she didn't laugh at me. I was very, very thankful. At any rate, most birders have binoculars, right? That's the #1 tool. And the one thing that I've noticed here Even when I asked Herbert, I said, what can we bring over, what would be most useful? He said binoculars, because it's a numbers game. I appreciate what everyone said earlier about the challenges of buying your gear. The good news is, unlike camera bodies and things, once you get your binoculars and your spotting scope, you can hold on to them for 10, 20 years if you're lucky. You know, they don't change dramatically because there's no electronic components. But yeah, the binoculars where you all start, but I think it's important to also realize at some point, and I think I'm just planting a seed, because not only do we have the users, the people going out into the field using the gear, but also there's, you know, some of the planners and the facilitators here, people that don't necessarily understand this intuitively. But I think it's important for the Ugandan women's birders to think long-term and suggest that I need a spotting scope. Okay, at a certain point in time, and that's kind of what the next thing's going to be, a binocular is only going to get you so far. As a guide owner and a tourism destination, your guests are going to want to have a better view, you know, and scopes are not just for distance, but for a better view of a close-up subject as well. And I think we should try and work on some sort of a midterm solution to be able to provide spotting scopes as, you know, the women birders, the ones that are kind of graduating to the next level, to have a program, okay? What I can tell you, I'd love to say I can give a binocular and a spotting scope to everyone in this room. That's not realistic. We have budgets, you know. But what I can promise with Koa Sporting Optics, we are very, very, as a company, dedicated to birding. I love this program. I will do everything in my power to make equipment as available as I can to all of you. I'll make that plea right now. So we'll find ways, you know, but baby steps. Okay, so the one thing, because everyone has a binocular, simple thing to do, of course, is slap my phone behind the binocular. Now, an 8X binocular and a 10X binocular, from a straight up equivalent lens, you're shooting about a 400 and a 500 millimeter lens, basically, when you put the phone behind there, just relative magnification. Spotting scopes are where most of the work's done, and it's a whole different levels we'll get into in a little bit. But again, just to demonstrate what I was talking about with the spotting scopes, this is an idea of a couple hundred feet maybe is realistic, you know, threshold of what you can identify for a small bird. What kind of details can you see? Are those rings there for an 8X, 10X binocular maybe? To put it into comparison, these rings would represent what a spotting scope will do to you and give you the same size image and the same size bird, all right? And that's why spotting scopes become important. It allows you to get more effective. You can be a better guide because you're able now, things that were lost to you with just binoculars are now available, and you can see what those birds are. And I'm talking details too. Obviously, the experienced birders all know that at a mile away, when you learn the way a bird holds its wings or its wing flap, without seeing any markings, you know what it is intuitively, right? But I'm talking more the markings that you can make out in this case. So here is pictures that I just took at lunchtime, so don't judge me, Jamie. But it's an idea, again, a physical demonstration of what I'm talking about. So everyone talked about the marabou stork and how much we love them, right? I've been hearing that all day. And there, of course, is a marabou stork with my camera or my lens set at about a 50 millimeter, which is about 1x. That's what it looks like to the eye. That little red arrow, if you see that little dashy kind of light spot on top of the tree, that's the marabou stork at about 600 feet. When I shoot at through the same lens, same magnification through the binoculars, we get that. Okay, so that would be the equivalent of like a 400 millimeter lens at the 600 feet that I'm at, without cropping in, doing anything. This is through the spotting scope at minimum power, and of course, spotting scopes have zooms, so we can do this. All right, and that's what I guess I'm trying to suggest. I didn't creep up on that bird. I didn't lay on my belly. I've never laid on my belly, by the way. I won't do that. I don't get wet. I remember there was at one of the festivals, there was one of these birding safaris, and they all got out their little sleds and were crawling across the beach. And I was digiscoping in the back, and I was digiscoping over their heads from like 50 feet back, so it was still kind of a low angle. And I remember at the end, these guys came back and said, look what I got. I said, yeah, I got the same one in about 5 minutes. And I saw 3 parasitic Jaegers and this and that, and I rattled off 40 birds that I'd seen. Well, they were just focused on the one. So that's not me. I can't do that. I am a birder, not a photographer. But anyway, that's the idea. You want to be able to extend your reach. You want to be able to give your clients a better experience, and a spotting scope helps you to do that. So these are tools that we got to find ways, I think, roll it into the program at a certain level, you know, when a guide reaches a certain threshold, that we need to find a way to get them a spotting scope as well as part of their kit, all right? So, that said, what is digiscoping? I already described that. Here's a variety of different kits, just to give you an idea. We're gonna just talk about the math a little bit, right? So, this spotting scope, and this is the old version of it that I've got on the screen there, but same idea, has a 25 to 60 power magnification on it. Again, binoculars that you can hand hold at about 10 power. Anything above that's really hard to hold steady. So we're talking about 6 times more magnification than a 10x binocular would provide. When you're doing the digiscoping math, what you want to do is figure out the equivalent lens that you're shooting for. Now in this particular one, the iPhones will list the specs, but that setup right there offered up to a 3,360 millimeter lens equivalent. So again, much bigger than a 400 millimeter lens. You don't have the need, or sometimes you can't get closer to a bird. Sometimes it's over water. Sometimes it's maybe an endangered species and you don't want to push it. You can stay back, be ethical, and get the same size. I'm not suggesting you go out and throw out your cameras. A mated camera lens system with autofocus and image stabilization will always do a better job than digiscoping, but again, just trying to help folks do the best with what they have. On most of the newer phones anymore, they have multiple lenses on the back, and that's become one of the greatest, probably, boons for digiscoping. This was the old 11 Pro Max. It had a 28 millimeter and a 56 millimeter lens. When you're trying to figure out the lens equivalents, you take the lens that you're shooting through on the phone, and you literally multiply it by the power of magnification on the eyepiece. So it's going to be anywhere from 25 to 50 times greater than what's listed there. And that's where we get to the almost 3,400 millimeter of lens. Now I'm shooting with the 14 Pro Max, and it has the 3X lens, which goes up to 77 millimeter. Long story short, that pushes it up to, approaching a 5,000 millimeter lens. If we put an extender on the scope, you can get even bigger. So these are theoretical, but just giving the idea. The big advantage of digiscoping is you're shooting with what you have, and it offers focal lengths that aren't available in other camera systems. That's a curse and a blessing, which we'll get into in a little bit here. So again, most people think of scopes are only used for things very far away. I need a scope for sea watching, or I'm going to be doing hawk watching at distance and trying to look at visible migration coming at me, and the birds may not get close, so I'm going to need a scope. And obviously you can use scopes for very distant subjects. The moon's at 240,000 almost miles from Earth. Jupiter, 395 million miles away. Saturn's 841 million miles away. And this is just with my phone shot through the scope. And again, Jamie, I don't even own Photoshop, so apologies. We should have done it the other way around so you could look at the real pretty pictures afterwards, but it's all good. But because of very good equipment, because of the massive magnification, you can get good detail, especially with good glass. I'll go back. Mourning dove, bank swallow, which you have here, and green orchid bee. And a palm warbler with palms. You don't get them like that where you come from, I know. So one of the things I want to talk about with this massive magnification, you talked about the blurry background. It's almost a given with digiscoping. I mean, it's more difficult to get background included because of the massive magnification. As you increase magnification, a couple things happen. One, the circle of light gets smaller, but but also what you see from side to side gets smaller as well. Like the difference between an 8-power binocular and a 10-power binocular, you can see more side to side than the 10. But the same thing happens front to back. What is in focus front to back becomes very shallow as you get to these huge magnification ranges. So getting good bouquet is something that pretty much happens without trying. Again, just trying to give a sort of a graphic feel of what the image would look like at comparable distance. You know, with a 400 millimeter lens, on the right, you'd have to be that distance for a bird, say the size of a northern gray-headed sparrow. I'm pretty sure that's what that is. I'm going with it. Or, you know, using the spotting scope. So you can see, again, it's an advantage that you don't have to get close to the bird. There's no, I'm going to creep up on the bird, move slowly. Generally speaking, it just happens automatically. So it allows you to get images from birds further away. And again, that blurred background just happens all the time. That's a Savannah sparrow from the US and the green orchid bee in flight. And Jamie, you see, look what I did. The first one I cropped in, but I put some stuff in it. All right, thank you. Okay, when it works very well. A lot of times it doesn't work. And I've made every mistake you can make digiscoping. I don't try to get good photos. I don't sit in blinds. I'm way too impatient. I just want to see every bird, you know, and then when I see it, I go, oh, that's nice, you know, and move on. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But tricolored heron, you know, headshot. When you're shooting, so we're going to get into the real tips part of this now. I'm going to teach you some of the things not to do and how to recognize what you did wrong. So this is what I call being a photo detective. When you look at what happened here, what went wrong with the setup, and a lot can go wrong when you're dealing with these massive magnifications. So the photo fails, as I call these, this is the section on photo fails. I've made them all, and the one thing that I try and do when I share these with people is just help people understand what you did wrong, help you through the learning curve a little quicker because I've already made the mistake. So if I can mentor people and help them, it's like this is what not to do. That's what we'll try and do. So this is obviously a beautiful picture of a Kentucky warbler that I took. So it makes for a very good photo fail. I didn't keep it because it was emotional, Jamie. I did it because it's instructional, just so you know. So some of the common photo fails, one of the very most common is alignment issues, and we'll get into that in a little bit. And that has to do with, remember, you're taking two pieces of kit that were never meant to work together, you know. They were not designed to work together. It's not like a mated lens and a camera body that are machined to work together. You're trying to couple together things that make no sense and were never meant to work together. So, you know, having a good solid alignment makes a big difference. And we'll show what it looks like when it's not aligned properly and how you can fix it. Motion blur and vibration is one of the real biggies at massive magnification. That just happens very commonly, and we'll see that as well and how you can tell which of these it is. Missed focus, that speaks for itself. Exposure issues, talk about a little bit about exposure. And glare and reflection as the big ones, and I think there's one more, yeah, atmosphere. Now atmosphere, well, I won't jump ahead, we'll get to it. So we're going to talk with alignment issues because this is the #1 problem with digiscoping. Let me back up a little bit. How many people tried digiscoping at some point, or digiphoning, or anything, right? And the first thing that I will say, if you can invest, you're talking about the cost of equipment, one of the cheapest pieces of equipment you can get that you'll soon love and learn to love very quickly is a digiscoping adapter. I don't like to say I'm lazy. I prefer energy conscious. You know, I don't like to, I just like things that work simply, and I get frustrated when it doesn't. So when I have a good adapter and I can just, it's kind of what I call dummy proof, which I need, it slaps on there, it's completely always centered. I don't have that issue. So that would be a suggestion. But looking at alignment issues here, we can see here how in the graphic, the phone is not square to the eyepiece, right? It's at a cant. And when that happens, you get this sort of weird, the circle's pushed all to one side, it's shadowed on the other side. And you can see right there where the problem is. So when you see that, you can just square up the phone, and you should get a nice sort of centered circle if you're shooting with a 1x lens like this, and it should be crisp, sharp-edged, all right? So here's another thing that is easy to demonstrate. I wear glasses, so I usually keep these eye cups down. If I were to take off my glasses and kind of mash those into my eye with the eye cups down rather than twisting them up, I'm going to see effects like this. I'm going to see these weird sort of shadowed arcs. And that's telling you the lens in your eye is too close to the lens in the optic, and you need to, you know, raise up the eye cups in order to make that a better situation. It's the exact same thing with a camera lens. It will tell you the same thing. When you get too close, here's examples of what it looks like at a 25 power, at 60 power on the magnification, and then when it's right. So if you're seeing those weird shadowed like crescent moon arcs like this that aren't uniform, generally what you have to do is bring up your eye cup to get the lens and the camera further away from the lens and the eyepiece. And it's just this exactly the same as what you see with your eye. So it mirrors that exactly. So that's the one thing to look for. When you've got the proper distance between the two lenses, it's going to be a nice crisp, you know, circle. In the blue sky, if you've got like a uniformly blue sky or a white wall, is a great spot to look for that, because if it's not uniform, you'll get these weird shadows which will just, you know, take away from focus and your exposure. I don't remember what I was going to say here. I'm giving a graphic example of what I just said. That's why. I'm jumping ahead. Sorry, people. I blame jet lag. So, again, you can twist out the eye cup, and when we do that, that's going to fix those shadowed arcs, all right? Go back again. See, there's graphic example of the shadows. We twist up the eye cup, it disappears. Okay. Once we get that ring, you know, you've got that ring around there, you can leave it like that and crop it out later. Or the beautiful thing about a spotting scope, again, you've got the versatility of zoom here. So we can twist up the zoom collar and get rid of that vignetted circle by running up the optical zoom on the eyepiece. Now, when you do that, you are reducing the amount of light reaching the back, so it's going to create a slower shutter speed. So if you can't stop the motion, sometimes it's better to shoot with that circle and worry about it later. You can always crop it out. If that doesn't work, you can also use the digital zoom on the phone, but generally speaking, that's the last thing you want to do. You want to try and use what we call the optical zoom here rather than cropping in, but you can indeed, you know, use the old pinch technique. All right, so here's another beautiful photo fail, and if I look at this one, it just seems, you look throughout the photo, look at the background, look in the foreground, it just seems like nothing's in focus, right? It's just out of focus. And when I see that, I'm pretty certain that two things. Either I just had the focus wrong, or there was too much vibration, too much motion in the system so that I couldn't get a crisp image. Motion, blur, vibration. So stability is key. With a spotting scope, again, because you're dealing with massive magnification, having a good solid tripod is key. It makes such a good difference, you know. The other thing about it too is whenever possible, if you've got legs that can come up higher, rather than using the center column, it's going to be much more stable when it's pinned down there, because now you've got 3 different legs that are supporting it. When you raise the center column like this, now what's happening, okay, you've got just this one stem, so there's going to be a lot more wind vibration and wind motion. So that's just a sort of a trick. Make sure everything's locked in place. If this is loose, you know, it can still wiggle a lot, so just lock everything in. So stability is the key there. There's also some hacks. So with iPhones in particular, The volume buttons can be used, you know, for those that love their selfies, you know, you can kind of, hey, and hit the volume button to take a photo with. Because the volume button works as a shutter, you can get a pair of earbuds that have a volume in the cord, plug it in, be pressing that button, and it works exactly like a cable release would on a camera. So again, you don't have to touch the system and cause vibration. So that's one of the good hacks. Some companies also will make like a Bluetooth remote that hooks to your phone through Bluetooth, and you can press a button in the same way I am here. There's a Bluetooth remote that we're using on the projector to take a picture. I know a lot of the Samsungs, you can literally be like, take a picture, you know, and it will, but that's kind of bad idea, you know, when the green-breasted pitta is under the table and you're, take a picture. You know? Yeah, so that one may not be necessarily what you want to do, depends on your bird. And if none of those tricks work, again, you can reduce the zoom, keep the vignette in, and what that will do, more light's reaching the camera and the sensor, so it's automatically going to set for a quicker shutter speed and allow you to be able to do that. The other trick is, of course, all of these can be put to a 3-second timer, I think, or a 2-second timer. So my thought on that is I get something first, even if it's blurry. I'm shooting for documentation purposes. For the purpose of my digiscoping big year that I've now put my foot in my mouth and have called it, my rule is I have to take it through the Kowa optics, and it has to be identifiable. That's all I'm shooting for. If it's identifiable, if I can show you that picture and say, what's that? And you can tell me what it is, it's a win. It's on the check. Yeah, so it's a totally different approach than Jamie, right? But that's the idea. But you can indeed, I'll take a blurry picture first, then I can move to timer, because of course timer, you don't know the bird's gonna stay. So I would say get one in the bank and then try and make it better if you can. Okay. Here we go. This is going to be missed focus again, but in this case, if you notice, the bird, I have real trouble with Kentucky warblers. I think because they stay in the brush and they don't show themselves very long. I go, ah! And I, you know, don't have a lot of time to fix it. But you can see what's going on here, I think, for those that take pictures a lot. You can see that stick in the foreground is just perfectly focused. It's so crisp, and I missed the bird entirely. So in this case, the autofocus has selected the brush in the foreground, right? And the poor bird got left out in the cold. So, well, happily, there's ways to do that too. So on the phones, you can see here's a graphic example. Again, the fern is in focus, the bird is out of focus, right? They can be focused like that, but to do that, what you have to do on the iPhones, and I think it works the same on the Samsungs, you press and hold your screen. And in this case, it's on the fence. I would do it on the eye or bill of the bird, right? Put my finger right, poke it right in the eye, and hold it down until you see this, AE/AF lock. What that's done now, it's locked your exposure, and it's locked your focus point. So if the focus point is on those leaves in the foreground, go back to that. No, not that one. Hold on. Oops. Anyway, hold that down. Once your focal point is locked, and it's locked on that stick, then the camera's not going to search anymore, okay? It's not going to search for focus. It's locked on that point. All I have to do then is go to the fine focus wheel on my spotting scope. So if it's on those sticks in the foreground, I just roll that right past the sticks until I get the bird in focus and I can take the picture. So that's the idea there. And again, we just adjust the focus at that point once the focus is locked until it looks good to the eye, take your picture. A lot of people will use a loop. Again, those people are more serious than I am. Going back to that simplicity. You know, if you heard about the KISS theory, they call it, K-I-S-S, keep it simple, stupid. I tend to live my life by that KISS principle. But you can indeed utilize a loop like this to really get razor sharp focus. A lot of people do that. I'm not one of them. But when it all works, you can even get Kentucky warblers kind of in focus. So there we go. So glare and reflection. That one's harder to deal with. And if you're not using an adapter and you're kind of hovering out here, what can happen is the sun can bleed through the side and reflect off this top lens. And then you'll get these weird shadows. You can see like the branches that are behind me are kind of overlaid across that, or you get these green spots because, again, the sun's reflecting off of there. You can shade it like this with your hand, just kind of hold it over like so if you're doing the hover technique without an adapter. Sometimes some universal adapters, because they don't fit completely like this one, there's no way for the sun to get in, but you can still get sun bleeding in from the top. If you're seeing any of that weird kind of, hey, where are these green spots coming from, or something that looks like it's reflected from behind you, if you just kind of hold your hand over top of the thing, it'll disappear. All right, exposure compensation. Now, go back to what we were talking about before. When we hold down on the phone until you get auto exposure, autofocus lock, we already talked about at that point we can override the focus by using the mechanical focus on the spotting scope. But also, if you slide up or down on the screen when the exposure is locked, if I move up, it's going to get brighter. If I move down, it's going to get darker. I don't need to know f-stops or anything about shutter. It's just a matter of slide that up and down until the subject, the bird, at that point, looks properly exposed. And this one's not. See the head's blown out on this bald eagle with some black vultures. These are American black vultures. But this gets us to, actually, you go back that one. Another problem with this one was an atmosphere problem too. Jamie was talking about earlier about getting low and getting at eye level. Actually, with massive magnification, you're also picking up all of the atmosphere between you and your subject, and that's where being further away is a problem. Sometimes there's just nothing you can do about bad air between you and your subject. If there's a lot of particulate matter, a lot of moisture in the air that's reflecting light, you're just not going to be able to get really good close focus. And in those cases, there's two things to do. One, it can be ground effect like this, kind of heat shimmer coming off the ground, and it dissipates as it gets higher. So in that case, it's just the opposite. Going higher can sometimes get you better air. If not, we're back to what you talked about. The only way to cure that is to get closer to your subject, or just take a blurry picture, which is fine with me. We talked earlier about shooting video. I shoot video all the time, most of the time, actually. I probably shoot more video than stills because, candidly, the phones work really well for it. And the other thing, what I can do, this shot was a video, and once you have a video, what you can do is go through and pause it on the phone here. I'll just hit the pause button and then take the little slider below, and I can just take my fingers, slide back and forth, and look at individual frames until I get either the right set of feathers. If I'm trying to identify a bird, did that thing have a white rump patch, or if you want to be artistic and catch the wings out, whatever else, you can catch that perfect moment, stop it there, and then just take a screenshot. There's my image. So most of the shoe bill stuff that I showed earlier, there was, again, it was just kind of which one's in focus. Or, I'm doing this on a boat too with a scope, so it was kind of whoa, whoa, whoa. So I had to find that right moment where maybe it was in the frame and in focus, right? So that's what we did there. Same with this thing. So these are Osprey, of course. Okay, talk about a couple other neat things we can do with the phone in particular. What's this bird? So everyone familiar with Merlin, the Merlin app? Doesn't work really well over here because not enough people are using it, so you guys got to start using it so it gets smarter with the Ugandan birds. But Merlin is fun because I can literally put this on here. I can open up the app and identify it, or I can take a picture and immediately use Merlin to help me identify, or at least narrow down the choices of a bird, so it can be a good learning technique. It's a free app that's associated with the Cornell Laboratory of Ornithology and eBird. So I took this picture. It's a Myarchus flycatcher. I'm not sure which one it is. I open up the app, Merlin, and I click on photo ID, and it will tell me, do I want to take a photo or choose a photo, right? So I'll choose a photo if I've already taken it, and then it will bring up the options. I choose the photo, you zoom it in so it fills most of the square, and you just hit next and identify, and oops, hey, stop it. And it will give you the best choices that eBird thinks that bird could be based on a data set of images that it has on file. So that's kind of fun too, you know, and it's a great learning tool that can help, especially, you know, as you know, the veterans pointed out on the panels earlier today. This is a long process. It takes a long time to get good with birds. Birding by ear and birding distribution, it's more than just the field marks, and you guys have weavers and green bulls, which I've decided I'm not going to do. Not on this trip, at least. I'm getting better, but they're tough, right? So, yeah, but that can help greatly. And even there's that shoot first, figure it out later mentality too, which is fantastic. If you just get an identifiable image or a reasonable image, you can always go back and lock down the ID, whereas you're based solely on what you remember after a little bit of time, especially as you get more gray hair like this. I find that I forget more than I remember. So it's harder to necessarily do that. How are we doing on time? Am I way over? Probably. I think I'm about done anyway, so that's it. I think, yeah, there it is. I need 200 more birds, 201 more birds images, so I'm banking on all of you to find me stuff. I got a couple in the yard earlier. Any questions anybody has on digiscoping or, you know, digital photography through the binoculars? Again, hopefully we can do some stuff in the field. Yes, we got Mike. Thank you. Right over there. Oh, you're in charge.
So there's always
It's on.
of the Kawa scopes, if one was just starting out.
Yes.
I just carry your absolutely fabulous small scope because I travel so much. Can I get good digiscope images with that smallest option for the scope?
You can. It's a little more difficult with that one because it doesn't have the wide angle eyepiece on it. But the wide angle eyepiece weighs more than half that whole scope. You know, that's the problem. To get these beautiful wide angle zooms, you have to have a very wide eyepiece because light has to be bent at extreme angles back and forth like this to get that wider field. So you can. With the new phones, I would automatically suggest using like the 2x lens as your default because with the 1x lens, that circle is going to be that much more magnified. That green orchid bee in flight, I took with that, the little 55 actually, so can be done. I'll help you. I know people. Okay, another question back there.
Hello.
Hi.
My name is Dawn Lillian.
Hello.
And I'm asking, can you also use a drone?
With a drone?
Yeah.
I've never used drones. I have to plead ignorance there. I mean, drones are really good and the photography on them, but I don't know, does anyone know any more about drones? What kind of focal lengths they provide, that's the thing. I don't know. I don't think they have a lot of magnification with drones is the thing. I don't know that for a fact, but I think they're pretty limited, much like trying to shoot with a cell phone without a binocular spotting scope. You know, at any distance, it kind of gets difficult to get enough magnification with birds. That's the big problem with birds, obviously, you know, I mean, as people pointed out earlier, elephants, giraffes, things, you don't hardly need optics, but we're trying to identify female sunbirds this big, you know, at 30 foot above you in bad light, so it can be a difficult thing. Another question.
I don't know if I'm having many questions, but the first one is the plug you're using.
Yes.
Is it universal or it's only designated to Kowa?
On the adapter. So this is Phone Scope. Unfortunately, they don't have distribution over here. It's a U.S. company, but all they do is make adapters. And the way they make them is you buy them in two pieces. You buy one that's mated specifically to your phone, okay? And in that way, when I put this ring on it, it snaps down. I'm perfectly centered on the 1 and 2X lens. It's got a little locking tab here. I pull it up and listen. Locks into place, and it's perfectly centered on the 3X lens. The second part of it is they have this keyhole plastic ring, and they have a number of different rings. So you get the ring that is mated exclusively to the eyepiece you're using. So that one's for the spotting scope. I always keep another one close at hand. You got to remember which pocket it is, though, because you don't have a lot of time. And put it on like that. And I'll usually shoot in video mode, especially on a bird in flight. Again, I can be focusing here, be hands-free here, looking at the video, right? And then again, hopefully get 1 or 2 frames that I can identify what that bird was. So that's Phone Scope. It's SKOPE. You can talk to your clients and friends and neighbors in the U.S. Say, pick me up one. As gear goes, these things run about, they're under $100, you know, so I mean, still expensive, but less expensive than most of the other gear that we're using. Again, we can find ways to get you that if people need those. Any other questions? Oh, another one.
I've used the two Universal, the one of Goski and the one from China.
Yeah.
And the one from Goski is a bit stable.
Yep.
But it has movements the moment you plug it on.
Yep.
Have you ever used one? And do you have a way of stabilizing it so that it doesn't make movement, mainly on binoculars?
I've tried all of them, you know, over the years, and I just really don't like universals. Universals are easy to find, and here's the, when it comes right down to it, it's a business decision, right? Universals are easy for distributors and dealers because they don't have to carry one SKU. To carry this line, they need 50. So you can find universal adapters readily, but because they are made more to keep selling it simplistic, not necessarily the best option for the consumer, it does make it more difficult because they have to be able to have movement in there, which, as you found out, it does suffer, the repeatability suffers. The one you mentioned, the first one, you said Swarovski's unit is pretty good. There's another one, Nova Grade, that's made out of metal. It's really good. I did bring a couple universal adapters and a couple spotting scopes that we're donating that go together. The universals are nicer for a guide because then you can also snap in your clients' phones, which makes it really nice. So it's kind of, there's no perfect solution, but the better machined they are, you know, the better success you'll have, basically. Yeah.
This last one is going to specifically Goa. Apart from Germany, is there any other repair point?
No. With the next closest, there's no distribution. I checked that in Africa. There is one dealer in South Africa only, but as far as repairs go, it's you're stuck between Japan, our headquarters in Japan, and Germany are going to be the closest, unfortunately. Now, hopefully we can get more gear down here, we get distribution down here. When things like that happen, that's when repairs will kind of come to you, but there needs to be obviously enough of a work base to create, you know, to pay for an office down here, right? So never say never, but right now, unfortunately, there's not one. Yeah.
Any more questions?
All right, well, thank you very much. Thanks for allowing me to speak to you today. It's been a really honor. I love what you do here.
Thank you, Jeff, for this great talk. I hope Ugandans, or the birders in this whole conservationists, you're going to think about to own equipment. My colleagues are tour operators. Beginning next year, I will be charging for every photo because you have heard from the horse's mouth. Tour operators, buy equipment. Don't send guides out there without binoculars. They may not necessarily be for only bird watchers. They are used for viewing things from far. Telescopes are important. You have a birding company. I know from the kitchen that we are going to start rating birding companies which claim to be birding companies, but they don't have birding equipment at their office. No library, at the office. It will be very, very important. Jeff, thank you very much for taking us through all this. I have learned a lot, and now I feel like I should now look for you. I think when I come to USA, maybe I look for you again and give you maybe hire you for a day. We spend a whole day doing stuff. Yes. Jeff has brought us binoculars, telescopes, lots of stuff. You will see this tomorrow. Maybe you can win something, maybe. I will discuss with the Women Birders leadership to see what we can do, either to, we will see, we'll tell you what happened, but please make sure you don't miss tomorrow. It will be very important for you. There are pointers, those who know less are pointers, there are books, there are books, there are pointers, there are lots of things, so you might win something. I want to thank everybody for spending an entire day on this inaugural day. I really want to thank the ladies who came out to tell us their story, our fantastic story, inspirational story. And you realize that what happens in Uganda, it happens in Rwanda, it happens in South Africa, almost the same stories. And if we bring all these stories together, we can move to the next level. There was a talk about Rwanda. I happen to have been involved in Rwanda. I've been there training since 2006. Yeah, the interest is growing. I have a group of youth birders from the other province, Kivu province. There are about 10 girls. Actually, one was coming here, but her dad got an accident. She's gone away. She's not coming, but I think she's always joining us. There's a growing number of the women birders, of course, but they're small. They need more and more training. I want to thank all our colleagues who traveled from that far to be with us here for the whole day. You just started, you ladies and gentlemen who are here. Tomorrow we have a fantastic day. Tomorrow is the official opening of this conference. You must come in time. We shall begin with the inspection of the exhibition. If you want to exhibit your things, please get down there and get space. If you want to put your banners here, you can still bring them here. You'll get permission from the ladies there who are putting on white. They will first inspect if it is relevant to bird watching or tourism. We will have government officials, other dignitaries will come here to witness how history evolves to another level. We will have good speeches. If you know you have something to say, you have to talk to me. Because tomorrow I'll be behind the scenes or in front to make sure we have a fantastic day. And I should say thank you very much. We meet tomorrow. Tea, coffee, everything's waiting for you there. Please don't go without, having a bite and also not working. If you have not come with a business card, please make sure you go and print. Tomorrow you exchange your business cards. You never know. Much as we are talking about Women Birders Conference, talk about business, you need to exchange, talk about these things. If you have accent issues, please go to Jeff. You learn how to speak American English.
I can barely speak it myself. I might have been the wrong guy.
Yes, let's encourage other people to come tomorrow and be able to make it. I thank you very much. I'll see you tomorrow. Good evening.